What if Captain Rex marched on the Jedi Temple with Anakin during Order 66? This alternate timeline story begins with Anakin and Kenobi being notified of an attack on Coruscant. When hearing Palpatine is in danger, Anakin ultimately decides that Captain Rex and the 332nd would be best utilized for an on-ground defense of Coruscant. Captain Rex voices his reluctance to leave Ahsoka alone for the Siege of Mandalore, and explains to Anakin that Mandalore is also of interest to the Republic. Anakin stays consistent on his orders, and tells Rex that protecting the Chancellor and the heart of the Republic is of top priority. Rex has no choice but to agree, and says a heartfelt goodbye to Ahsoka, with both of them hoping to see each other after they've successfully completed their missions. Anakin, Rex, and the 332nd are then loaded into multiple gunships and are quickly briefed on the current situation. A clone advisor explains to them that General Grievous has launched an all-out assault with the intention of kidnapping Chancellor Palpatine. As the gunship hurtles towards the chaotic cityscape, Anakin addresses the ship full of clones, making it clear that they must be ready to lay down their lives if need be in order to stop Grievous and protect the Chancellor. Once landed, Anakin immediately jumps out and tells Rex to bring 3 of his best clones to accompany him straight to the Chancellor's office. Rex decides to bring Jesse, Ridge, and Sterling. Before leaving, Rex instructs Captain Vaughn to maintain a perimeter for when they bring Palpatine back. The rest of the 332nd are then instructed to help Yoda and Captain Fordo with their defense efforts on the city. As Anakin and the 4 clones make their way to the Chancellor's office, they begin to encounter heavy resistance from a huge wave of battle droids at the foot of the building. Anakin slices through countless B-1s, while Rex and his men provide a flurry of cover fire. With the whole wave of droids downed in a near instant, Anakin and his 4 clones accomplish what many other squads couldn't. The group then packs into an elevator and impatiently waits to reach the Chancellor's floor. On their way up, they see an elevator going down, with Palpatine and Shaak Ti in it, and Grievous running down beside the building, trying to chase them. Anakin immediately breaks the glass of his own elevator and force jumps towards theirs. The 4 clones then rappel down the building, anticipating they'll meet Anakin at the bottom. Anakin grabs onto the other elevator and immediately begins to duel with the running Grievous as they both rush down the building. Realizing the strength of Anakin's lightsaber skills, Grievous begins to slash the elevator's main lock in order to switch Anakin's focus on the elevator free-falling to the ground. Shocked to find out Anakin is right above, Palpatine tells Shaak Ti that they must find a way to escape. Nearing impact, Anakin force blasts the window, grabs Palpatine, and tells Shaak Ti to jump. All 3 of them manage to escape right before impact, with a second to spare. Grievous hurtles down and plants his metal claws in the ground and reignites his lightsabers. Surprised, Grievous tells Anakin he expected someone of Anakin's reputation to be much older. Anakin replies to Grievous, saying that he is shorter than he expected. With an angry growl, Grievous remotely calls a ship that arrives in seconds with a squad of Magna Guards. As the Magna Guards close in, Rex and the 3 other clones make it to the bottom of the building, backing up Anakin and Shaak Ti. Grievous quickly jumps on his ship and escapes, leaving the Magna Guards to be dismantled by the group. With the droid threat cleared, Rex escorts the group straight to Captain Vaughn's evac perimeter. Anakin, Shaak Ti, and the Chancellor are then transported away to an emergency safe zone. Shortly after Palpatine's rescue, the 332nd and Fordo's men mop up the remaining battle droids. With Separatist forces ordered to retreat, the Republic was victorious in its defense of Coruscant. After the battle's conclusion, Rex, Jesse, Sterling, and Ridge are awarded medals for their courage in protecting both the Chancellor and the Republic. After the ceremony, Rex quickly tries to contact Ahsoka to see how the siege is going. She states that they are making progress in tracking down Maul, and wishes the Council had given them proper reinforcements. With Anakin still worried about Palpatine's safety, Rex tells her that he's been ordered to remain on Coruscant with the rest of the 501st until further notice. Rex then wishes Ahsoka luck, and tells her to come back to Coruscant after she has completed her mission. Days later, Rex and the 501st are still stationed on Coruscant, but Anakin's new discovery of Palpatine being a Sith Lord begins to alter all reality. After alerting Mace Windu of this newfound knowledge, Anakin immediately orders Rex to act as Padme's personal guard, fearing for her safety during this uncertain time. When Rex arrives to Padme's apartment, he reassures her that everything is fine and that Anakin will be back shortly. Although Padme was glad to see Rex, she knew that something was wrong. Hours pass, and Rex eventually receives a transmission directly from the Chancellor. Palpatine mutters 3 grim words: "Execute Order 66. He only responds with 'Yes, my lord.' Another transmission follows almost instantly, this time from Anakin. His voice, colder than ever, orders him back to the 501st Barracks immediately. Without a word to Padme, Rex leaves the apartment. Upon reaching the main 501st Barracks, Rex is met with an eerie silence. The usual banter was gone. Clones stood in perfect formation, helmets on, awaiting orders with an unsettling stillness. Anakin stood in the background. Rex walked up to the front and began briefing them on what would be known as Operation Nightfall, explaining that all Jedi leadership must be executed for treason against the Republic. After Rex had briefed the clones, Anakin stepped forward, his voice emotionless as he informed the 501st that he would only be referred to as Lord Vader. The name puzzled Rex, as every other clone remained completely still. Vader then outlined their grim task: go to the Jedi Temple and leave no survivors. An hour after the initial order, Captain Rex and his 501st clones marched behind Lord Vader to the Jedi Temple. Without Ahsoka's influence, Rex's mind was completely controlled by the inhibitor chip, and his loyalty was unwavering. Vader, who was a dark blur, immediately cut down the Jedi Temple guards that stood at the entrance. Once the 501st entered the Jedi Temple, they began to open fire on every Jedi in sight. Most were caught off guard, while others were able to ignite their lightsabers, deflecting incoming bolts for a moment before dying to the sheer volume of blaster fire. Rex was mainly tasked with directing squads. Vader, however, vanished deeper into the chaos, pursuing his own grim mission. As the operation continued, two urgent transmissions broke through to Rex, the first being an injured Commander Apo, who reported a senator's attempt to escape with a Jedi. Rex ordered a medic team to his location. The second was a distress call from Jesse, who was further into the temple. Rex gathered reinforcements and hurried towards Jesse's position. The halls became a scene of carnage. Fallen Jedi and clone troopers littered the ground. Rex found Jesse engaged in a battle with Jedi Master Sin Dralig. As Rex's reinforcements opened fire, Dralig expertly deflected the blasts. Impaled by a redirected bolt, Jesse dropped to the ground. Rex yelled out Jesse's name, then drew his DC-17 blasters and fired at Dralig. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Vader descended into the fight. Dralig, despite his skill, was no match. Vader's lightsaber strikes were relentless and overwhelming to the Jedi Master. With a forceful parry, Vader disarmed Dralig, then used the Force to drive the Jedi Master's own lightsaber through his chest. As Dralig fell to the ground, Vader continued on. Rex immediately went to Jesse to try to help him, but it was too late. There was nothing he could do. He hesitated for a brief moment, but ultimately followed Vader and carried out his orders. After another hour, Operation Nightfall was considered a success. All remaining 501st clones were grouped outside with the backdrop of the burning Jedi Temple. Vader informed Rex that he was needed elsewhere, under the direct orders of the newly declared Emperor Palpatine. Rex and the 501st were then shuttled back to their main headquarters on Coruscant without Vader, awaiting further instructions. A subtle, unsettling vibe was noticed among the troopers. Chatter, usually routine, carried an undertone of confusion that hadn't been there before. Some clones exchanged uneasy glances, clearly processing the horrific events that they had just participated in. Rex had retrieved Jesse's helmet and carefully placed it in his personal storage case. It was a harsh reminder of the clones that Rex lost during this mission. Hours later, the unsettling calm was broken by a transmission from a disturbed Vader. His voice, cold and detached, ordered Rex to return to Padme's apartment, instructing him to resume his duties as her personal guard until he returned. When Rex arrived at Padme's apartment, he called the senator's name but received no reply. Using his knowledge of security protocols, Rex unlocked the door and entered, only to find Padme missing and the apartment empty. He immediately tried to contact Vader, but his calls went unanswered. Concerned, Rex requested Commander Fox to initiate a perimeter sweep, fearing Padme might have been taken. As Rex looked out at the Coruscant skyline, waiting to hear back from Fox, his comlink began to chirp. It was Ahsoka, who was in a panic and tried to ask him what was happening. She described a massive disturbance in the Force. Under the influence of the inhibitor chip, Rex told her to turn herself in, declaring all Jedi were traitors to the Republic. Ahsoka pleaded with him about his behavior, and during a brief moment of clarity, Rex revealed a single critical piece of information, that Fives had warned of a plot to destroy the Jedi. Ahsoka then asked about Anakin and Obi-Wan. Rex's only reply was that all Jedi are to be executed for treason. Stunned, Ahsoka ended the call, telling Rex that she would figure out what was going on. Shortly after, Commander Fox confirmed that Senator Amidala was nowhere to be found. After several days with no word or appearance from Lord Vader, the 501st remained on standby, awaiting further orders. The lack of communication was confusing to Rex until he finally received an unexpected summons to an Imperial questioning room. As he entered the room, it was completely dark and silent. The only noise present was a heavy, mechanical breathing sound. Before Rex could fully process it, the lights turned on, revealing a menacing, masked figure in all black. Rex was then abruptly lifted into the air. A distorted, robotic voice demanded to know why Rex failed to protect Senator Amidala. Rex, struggling to speak, explained that she was gone when he arrived, and that they performed an extensive sweep but could not find her. Rex was then dropped to the ground. The figure then told Rex he would be dead if he had not known of his extensive service to the 501st. Confused, Rex got up and asked where General Vader was. The menacing figure declared that he was Lord Vader. Rex was in shock and disbelief. Vader demanded to know of Rex's last contact with Ahsoka Tano. Rex recounted their brief exchange shortly after Operation Nightfall, confirming her last known location on Mandalore. Vader began to leave, stating that Rex's top priority was now to locate Ahsoka. Rex asked if Senator Amidala had been located. Vader briefly stopped and then continued to exit without saying a word. A whirlwind of thoughts raced through Rex's mind. Could that truly be Lord Vader? The same Vader that raided the Jedi Temple? Regardless, Rex knew his next mission: find Ahsoka Tano. With the Empire in full effect, Rex found himself at the head of a small detachment of the 501st. On his way to board the ship, Rex received an incoming transmission. It was Ahsoka. She told Rex that she was indeed still on Mandalore and would surrender to the Empire. Rex agreed and told her he was on his way. Mid-flight, Ridge was aboard and asked Rex and the clones if the Empire was really going to execute Ahsoka, their former commander. Rex reiterated that all Jedi were guilty of treason against the Republic. Ridge then mentioned that the Republic doesn't even exist anymore, which made Rex begin to question those very orders. Upon reaching Sundari, Rex and his squad were quickly greeted by Mandalorian commandos. Rex demanded to know the whereabouts of Ahsoka. He and his men were then brought to a palace. To his surprise, Bo-Katan and a disgruntled Maul were present. Maul immediately orders the Mandalorians to confiscate the clones' weapons and apprehend them. The clones are too caught off guard to be able to fight back, and are now weaponless. Ahsoka then drops down from the shadows and tries to reason with Rex in person, who is adamant that she has betrayed the Republic. After a few more attempts, Maul orders the Mandalorians to take the clones to holding cells. Ahsoka then tells Bo-Katan that they must bring Rex to a medical facility so they can attempt to remove Rex's inhibitor chip. As soon as they start to transport the clones away, Ahsoka and Maul sense a disturbance in the Force. They then look towards the palace entrance and see something. It's Vader. He slowly walks into the main chamber. A Mandalorian commando rushes him and is force pushed into a wall. The other two commandos attempt to fight, but are both crushed by Vader's force abilities. Intrigued, Maul asks who Vader is, with no reply given. He then focuses his attention towards Ahsoka and tells her that if she turns herself into the Empire, the Emperor will show mercy. Ahsoka states that she would never do such a thing and asks if he is responsible for what has happened to the Jedi. Vader says that purging the Jedi Order has guaranteed security and prosperity to his new empire. Ahsoka senses a familiar presence but does not know why. She then draws her lightsabers, the same ones given to her by Anakin not that long ago, and tells Vader she will avenge the Jedi he killed. She charges straight at Vader and is force pushed out of the way. Maul then gets up from his throne and ignites his double-bladed lightsaber. He jumps and tries to acrobat over Vader. Their lightsabers clash. Vader, still getting used to his new prosthetics, is much slower, but still unstoppable. Ahsoka then rejoins the fight with Maul. A flurry of saber strikes light up the room. Rex recovers his blasters from the dead Mandalorian and tries to focus his aim on Ahsoka. Thinking he has a clear shot, Rex fires off multiple blaster bolts that get deflected by Maul and shoot straight into Vader's shoulder. Vader sends a force blast towards Rex and the clones, who go flying into a wall and get knocked unconscious. Vader then brings down a piece of the palace's structure directly above Maul. As Vader is trying to crush Maul with the piece of building and still dueling Ahsoka, She loses her footing and is force pushed while her lightsabers are thrown into the air. Maul then tries to bring more of the palace ceiling down onto Vader to try and distract him. As Vader tries to hold up the collapsing debris that Maul has brought down, Ahsoka notices a fleeting opportunity present itself. She then yells at Bo-Katan, who throws several thermal detonators towards the ceiling where Vader is concentrating his force powers, causing further chaos. With the palace beginning to completely collapse, Ahsoka force pulls Rex towards Bo-Katan. She then throws him over her shoulder and jetpacks out of a hole in the ceiling. Vader, who begins to refocus his attention towards Ahsoka, quickly sees her zip out through the entrance. Shortly after Ahsoka escapes, the palace completely collapses, and she jumps to the nearest speeder and makes her way towards her ship. Bo-Katan and an unconscious Rex then meet Ahsoka right out front of her ship's landing platform. They then quickly get on the ship and escape Mandalore. Hours pass and Rex eventually wakes up, confused and unfamiliar with his surroundings. He attempts to sit up and feels a fresh scar above the right side of his head. His inhibitor chip had been removed. Once he noticed Ahsoka sitting nearby, he immediately talked to her about what he had done. He struggled to describe just exactly what happened. Slain Jedi, the overwhelming sense of betrayal, and his actions driven by the chip. Ahsoka told Rex that she had found the Five's file. She explained to him that the chip had been removed. Before she could elaborate, Rex interjected, his voice with disbelief, telling her how Anakin led the charge on the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka couldn't ignore his words. The crushing wave of darkness felt through the Force during Order 66 now became horrifyingly clear. Anakin had turned to the dark side. They both pondered the same question. Could the hero they once knew, Anakin Skywalker, truly be the same person in that suit? Regardless of their uncertainty, from this point on, Ahsoka and Rex are determined, and their alliance would become the first true resistance to the newly formed Empire.